Hey folks, I'm going to do a bit of rambling here on Robot C and maybe get your Marble sorter code kind of at least set up some bare bones that you can do to make sure that you have everything set up when your teachers probably need to help you debug a little bit in the last few days of testing. So here we go. I've just got a blank screen, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I have a few things set up, of course. Vex 2.0 Cortex, Natural Language Project Lead the Way. We definitely want these things. I'm going to go ahead and click New File. And in this new file, you're going to have your pragma values of all your motors and your servos and potentiometers, encoders, limit switches, everything set up here. What I want to do here is just kind of go over maybe some bare bones. Like if you write this, you're going to give your teachers a much easier time to kind of help you debug a little bit and teach you maybe where your program's falling short. So we'll start first with this. Some of the first things that I suggest you do is that you need to create some variables. Most of you are using a flashlight and a light sensor to see how much light is passing through the marble. So something that I would definitely do is I would take some variables and I would set those equal to some numbers that you put together. So again, these are not clear and cut numbers. I'm just kind of putting some numbers out there, something that some things might read. Now you might want to take a black value just in case, even though you might not need it. The fourth marble steel. Again, most of you are sorting that through size. So a lot of the times the steel and the black are going to look the same, or the steel and the blue are going to look the same, depending on where you line up your line sensor. So I might go ahead and throw some of those variables in there. You definitely want variables for your final program, so those are really easy ways to get them. Then when your program first starts, probably one of the first things that you're going to do is you're going to want to turn your flashlight on. And in there, you're going to give it something. It could be like, flashlight, and then always give it full power. Just make this a little bit easier. And again, these things aren't going to show up for us just because of the fact that I don't have a motors and sensors set up. And you might call your flashlight something different. You might just call it light or flash, whatever it may be. But you definitely want to get that flashlight on right away. Right after that's on right away, then we are going to want, your code might have some things to do. You might have to get a marble in place. So you might be turning on a motor until a potentiometer reads a value and then turning it off. And then you're going to start to code. So again, to set this up, the bare bones of it is, what do you want to happen first before it starts to look at the value of the light sensor? And again, some of you might be like, I just need to turn the flashlight on. Some of your groups might be like, okay, I need to turn the flashlight on. Then I need to give it some time for the marble to go through a little gate that I've created and get to that sensor. Some are set up that way. If that's the case, let me just go through a few different ways that we could use this. Say some of you are going to be using an encoder. So if we're going to be using an encoder to do that, you might go ahead and you might start a motor. You maybe have this as like a gate motor or whatever the name is, and then you might bring in a speed. Now, something you want to check is in the debugger window, positive, negative, which way is that gate moving? So again, this speed here could change from positive and negative depending what you want it to happen. Then on the left-hand side in natural language, you might want to grab this until encoder counts. Your sensor could be the gate encoder, and then your distance is going to be like, hey, how much do I need this to move? Okay, well, I need this to move 90 ticks, and then after that, I'm going to stop my gate motor. So now that could be something for an encoder. Okay. What about, Mr. Green, if I have a limit switch that I'm using? Okay, well, I'm just going to be really lazy here. I'm going to copy all that code. And again, you might start a motor, and then on that motor, you might have an arm that hits a limit switch. Well, we're going to replace this with an Intel Touch. And that sensor port, that's going to be your limit switch, or whatever you decide to name it. Again, there you go. Well, what if I want to reverse this and I got a limit switch on the other side? Well, you got two different limit switches. You copy this code, and you're going to change the speed to negative. All right, Mr. Green, what if I have a potentiometer? So if you've got a potentiometer, again, it's going to be very, very similar, except for the until touch is going to be either a greater than or a less than. Well, which one do we use? Great question. If you set up your device and you can at least go into the debugger window and you can move that encoder, or I'm sorry, that potentiometer, like you can move whatever it's attached to and you can see. If the value is going up in the position that you want it to go, then you're going to use greater than. If it's going down, then you want to use less than. So there is a greater than for the potentiometer and there is a less than. Again, which one you need to use, that's up to you. But you might say, okay, I need this to be greater than position 3000, and this is going to be my gate pot. Again, you might use less than. So these are just some examples of what might happen before you even get to the logic or any of the control structures of your program. So with all of these, I'm just going to go ahead and toggle those to comments so they don't get in the way. But again, look at some of that code. You can see it right there. You can copy it down. You can utilize it. That's awesome. Next, maybe after it does something like that, say I've got a limit switch. So that's going to happen. Then I'm going to have to repeat this process over and over. So under control structures on the left-hand side, I'm going to look at control structures again, and I'm going to bring in the old while loop. Then I can just bring it right in. When I bring in the while loop, it has a condition and a body. For my condition, everybody, we want this to repeat over and over again for as many marbles are sensed through our program. So my condition is going to be true, and that seems really, really silly, but it's whatever, if whatever's in this bracket is true, this will still run. So if I just put true, that's good. I mean, I could say 1 equals 1. That's another way to do it. 1 does equal 1. That's a true statement. I'll just put in true. Then for my body, here's where I want to start making some decisions. So again, I might say, all right, I want to look at the sensor value, and then depending on what the sensor value of my light sensor is, make a decision. So again, on the left-hand side, I'm going to go to if statements, and I'm going to go ahead and grab a if-else statement. And I'm going to bring that right into my while loop. So here, it's going to say, okay, if the sensor is what? Well, I'm going to go ahead and put in sensor value and say again, I don't know what my light sensor will be called, so I'll just say light sensor and say that is going to be greater than, let's see here. So say my top clear was like 125. Then anything less than 150 or anything less than clear will do this. Okay, well, what do I want it to do when it's clear? A lot of you might need code to move a bin into position. I see a lot of you have that. Okay, so I'm going to just use comments. I'm not going to code this out, but you can get the idea. The first thing I might do is move to the clear bin. So whatever that is, a motor and a encoder, motor and a potentiometer, or maybe it's just a servo, it's going to move to the clear bin. Then I might have that gate release the marble. It goes down into that clear bin. Awesome. Well, that's neat. And it'll come back through here and it will just keep running this code. This stuff will stay happened once. So now if it comes and runs it again, it's actually not going to run your like gate or whatever setup is. So whatever your little setup here is to like release a marble to the sensing system, you might need to put that right here before this if. So I'm going to say this could be a possible marble release to the sensor. Okay, you might need to fill in code for that. Next, I'm going to go jump back to this. What if it's not clear? Well, it goes into this else part of the body. Well, if this isn't true, then this has to be true. Well, some of you are going to be like, well, Mr. Green, if it's not clear, it's got to be blue or black. Great. So I'm going to go to if, and I'm going to drag in another if else into this if. I'm going to get rid of that body. And I'm going to say, okay, what if my sensor value, again, and this would be whatever you named your light sensor. And then this is going to be less than, how about blue? So I got blue in there. What's going to happen here? Well, pretty much the same thing's going to happen, except it is going to be the blue bin. Tab that over. So I got my clear, I got my blue, and now black. Here's the cool thing. In an if-else structure, if it's not clear, it goes to this else. And it looks here. If it's not blue, well, it can only be black. Granted, your steel marbles are being sorted out some other way. So this, we don't need to look at the sensor value at all, because if it's not clear, it's not blue. Hopefully it is black. We will move to the black bin, and we'll have whatever kind of gate we set up release that marble. And that right there, woo, that is a quick tutorial on getting some bare bone code. You're going to be coding a lot more for whatever this is, whatever this is, whatever this is, to get it to work. So that's my tutorial on that. I might have another one on functions coming up shortly.